Welcome to Alaska Matters with Chris Story. To reach Chris, call 226-3933. 226-3933. Now, giving you something to talk about, here's Chris Story.
Hey, did you hear that Beauregard was appointed to the Homer City Council? He beat out both Sharon Minch and Dawn Stead. And both of those folks put their name in the hat to be the newest councilman here in Homer. However, Sharon, current planning commissioner chair, also took another blow to the chin when her pet project, the sign ordinance, was overhauled, and there was the sandwich board signs are now allowed, and that was stripped out by Councilman Lewis. So a newly appointed Beauregard made it possible to have a 3-3 vote in favor of allowing sandwich board signs here within the city limits, 365 days out of the year, and which they stripped out the language of 14 days out of 90, which, you know, was sort of ridiculous, really. I mean, I think you would agree with that. Anyway, it forced the Mayor Hornaday, for the first time in quite a while, to weigh in and cast a tie-breaking vote, and he voted in favor with the three men, as it turns out. Both David Lewis and Brian Zackin and the new Beauregard had voted to strip that out of the ordinance, and in fact, the mayor went along with them. So still banned, though, are banners. They're still out. Political signs have been cut in half, and your right to due process was still minimized down to 7 days from 30, and they removed the ability to go to the council as a board of adjustment. So I wasn't completely thrilled. I talked to Rick Abood earlier today, the city planner, and he said, well, you won that battle. And I didn't win. I mean, I think Homer businesses won a certain extent that they can have sandwich board signs as a means to getting traffic to their business, and another tool in the tool bucket, if you will, to help facilitate their business. But all in all, I'd like to see them just do away with the whole thing. I've told you before, if you spend months and months and months climbing to the top of the ladder only to realize you're on the wrong wall, you've leaned your ladder against the wrong wall, it's time to take evaluation of that and say, you know what, we're going to climb back down, and we're going to start from scratch, and that's okay. And that may, in fact, be where we're at with the health care bill that's currently before the Supreme Court, otherwise known as Obamacare. Our guest today on the program is Loren Lehman, former lieutenant governor of the great state of Alaska, one of the 57 states in the Union, and pleasure to have him on the program. We're going to be discussing his opinion on the Obamacare and as it pertains to capitalism as well, and is capitalism under assault with this bill? Where might it go? And a big question that I know a lot of you want to know, what's going on with Loren Lehman? Will he throw his name in the ring to be in the political arena again in the near future? We'll definitely get to all of that stuff coming up here with the great Loren Lehman, a great Alaskan, also from the Kenai Peninsula. You'll have a chance to win a Blackwater Bend Espresso gift card during our Mind Bender portion of the program. Again, this is Christopher Story. You're listening to Alaska Matters. Story at xyz.net is the email should you like to weigh in on this topic or any other. Story at xyz.net. Our number to call, 226-3933, 226-3933. Won't be taking calls on the air, but you can certainly let Tiffany know where you stand, and she'll get that information to me. Also, you can send me a text message directly at 299-7653, 299-7653 during any portion of the program. I'm glad you've joined us for great adventures in the last frontier. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right here on Alaska Matters.
Hi folks, Jackie Ray here for the Caribou Family Restaurant. The Caribou Family Restaurant wants you to remember how happy you were at Thanksgiving, past Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day, Valentine's Day, how happy you were with the service, how happy you were with the highest quantity of food, more than you can eat every day at the Caribou Family Restaurant, how happy you were with the quality of food, how happy you were with the prices for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In fact, the Caribou Family Restaurant wants you to remember each and every time you hear or see the word happy, how happy you were with sumptuous prime rib on Friday and Saturday nights, breakfast any time of the day or night. So if you want to be happy again, stop by the Caribou Family Restaurant and be happy every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Lake Street and Pioneer Drive in downtown Homer. Check it out. Be happy every day at the Caribou Family Restaurant, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. See you here, 235-5148. Orders to go.
Oh, no. I'm out of water. No problem. Call More and More, your locally owned water supplier. 24-hour service from your locally owned water company. Tired of working with an outside corporation? Want to support local business and get better service for less? Then put More and More to work for you. 235-8837. More and More is next door. 235-8837.
Now's the time to get those construction projects lined up for this summer. From excavating to landscaping, Gregoire Construction is the one to call to get it done. Call and talk to Richard about the work you'd like to have scheduled at 399-1526. Driveways, asphalt paving, water and sewer, land clearing and landscaping. Call 399-1526. 399-1526. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Gregoire Construction.
Just take those old records off the shelf. I said listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time rock and roll. Don't try to
I'm Chris Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. You're listening to Alaska Matters. We're live, coming to you live from the headquarters of Story Real Estate here at the corner of West Hill and the Sterling Highway, the headquarters and headwaters of the Kachemak Bay and all things prosperous. This portion of the program made possible by Blackwater Bend Espresso. Today's Mind Bender comes to you courtesy of Blackwater Bend, your home for gourmet coffee, tasty treats. They're located, as you know, halfway between Homer and Anchor Point. You can find the perfect cup of handmade gourmet coffee made to perfection just for you, always perky and always fresh. Blackwater Bend, not your average drip. Here's your question. The number to call, 226-3933. Write that down. Just dial it now, and then you can hit send when I ask the question. It's the simplest thing. 226-3933. Here's the question. What escaped from a wildlife conservation center in Portage last Tuesday? What wild animal escaped from the Wildlife Conservation Center in Portage last Tuesday? Was it a bear cub? Was it a bison cub? Or a moose calf? What is on the loose? A moose, a bison, or a bear? 226-3933. All 7 lines are open. Tiffany is standing by to take your call. 226-3933. What if you could change the healthcare system in our country? What if you found the solution to the healthcare crisis? And I mean, that's really, it's a cost crisis is how I see it. What if you were the solution? I've seen the same doctor since I was born. In fact, his clinic anyway, and then he retired. And I just found out, because I pay out of pocket. I've got a major medical policy, but I don't have a day-to-day incidental policy, just major medical. So I go in and write a check or pay cash, whatever, for whatever I need done incidentally. And I noticed to see a PA, which is a physician's assistant, I paid $140 at my clinic. Well, come to find out, across the street, you can see a doctor for $70. Well, where do you think I go now? That's the market force in work and healthcare. Loren Lehman is my guest, and Loren in 2002 was a member of the Republican Party, of course, and became Alaska's 8th lieutenant governor. Before that, Mr. Lehman served in the legislature here in Alaska for 14 years, where he was known as a social conservative, pro-development kind of guy, pro-business, environmentally conscious, and a supporter of Alaska's military and taxpayer-friendly. In 2002, again, he did beat out Gail Phillips, then state representative from Homer, Robin Taylor, state senator from Wrangell, and a little-known mayor of Wasilla named Sarah Palin. Beat Sarah Palin by 2,000 votes. Loren Lehman is my guest. Loren, welcome to the program. Is there anything you like about the Obamacare health policy?
Well, I think the 2,700 pages would make for some great scratch paper and a few things like that, but otherwise, it's not good public policy. We'll just put it that way. We'll just lay it out plainly, and I think some of what you've talked about is why anytime you take something where there's market forces at work making things better and more competitive, and then you do this seductive approach and you tell people you are going to get something, and for many people it's something for nothing, and then they get attracted to it, we end up losing freedom, and it will end up costing more and providing a lesser quality of service. That's going to be the end result of Obamacare if it ever goes into effect. And of course, they're on the path now to put it into effect.
Correct, exactly. And it'll be interesting to see what the Supreme Court actually decides. But Loren, let me ask you this, because I just read your bio. You 18 years in elected public office. Did it ever occur to you as a senator or a representative or lieutenant governor that you could stand before the people of Alaska and say, we must pass this bill, Alaskans, so you can find out what's in it? Did that ever occur to you?
No, we never did that, and I find that type of thinking to be so unconscionable that you actually have people in Congress. I mean, Nancy Pelosi said that, but others did. I mean, I doubt that our two senators and representative read the bill in its entirety. I'm not even sure that anybody in Congress has read it yet. And, to pass it, and now 2 years later, still not understand, still not know what's in it, is terrible. That is terrible public policy.
It's like peeling an onion. I know that the Realtor Association discovered, about 6 or 8 months ago, I had an opportunity to speak with Linda Gould in Washington, D.C., who had discovered that there indeed was a 3.8% real estate tax within the healthcare legislation. And the way that was made palatable, or at least was sort of soft-pedaled, was, it won't affect most people. And the fact of the matter is that you still have your $250,000 and $500,000 primary home exemption for singles and married couples. And so I think the idea was that, hey, come on, Loren, it's a tax on the wealthy, and it's not really going to affect you, I guess, until you go to buy a home from a developer that it will affect, or a piece of land. And so there's definite repercussions. Loren, when do you think health care became a right-left issue versus just good business or bad business? When did it go so political?
Well, we've probably been on that path for at least 70 years. I would say when, we've been marching toward that, when Franklin Roosevelt came into office at a very tough time, and working to get us out of the Depression, and many of these programs did some good things. Okay, let's acknowledge that. There were some things that, accomplished some good things, and yet it just gets us more and more dependent on the federal government instead of depending on us as states or as municipalities or as individuals, as churches, social groups, and all of these forces closer to the people. We're now have become more and more dependent on the federal government. Well, it doesn't come without a cost. I was just thinking about it today as I was, preparing or giving some thought to being on this show. I said, at the margin, if somebody's a 39% taxpayer, and then that's to the federal government, and of course they're paying employment taxes. They're either their employer or they're paying self-employment taxes on top of that, plus local government, and on and on. So at the margin, we're willing to give up half of our income to feed a system that somehow promises us it's going to come back and give things to us. Yeah. And then we go, well, that's, people like that. Everybody wants something for nothing, but it just is impossible to happen.
I think one of the things that is mentioned quite often, at least as I listen to this on a national basis, is that, there's 30 million or whatever million uninsured people in this country. Well, I'm going to cite two different instances that I think would give us something to talk about, relative to the uninsured or underinsured. One is I've got a friend who employs a couple of hundred people and offers them all, 100% of them are offered health care for a pretty minimum premium on a monthly basis, and then he contributes a majority of it. And less than 25% of those 200 people take advantage of that insurance. Most of them are younger. Most of them don't see the need to cough up that kind of money. They're putting their money towards something else, and they're making a choice thereby to be uninsured at that case. And then another thing I would say is that I know a young couple that had a baby and needed to go into some neo-intensive natal care and so forth, and didn't have insurance, didn't have money. And statewide, we've got a really terrific safety net for people like that. Speak to both of those issues, if you would.
Okay. When I was in the Senate, I served on the Health, Education, and Social Services Committee, and so we dealt with a number of these issues. And it's harder for me to think in terms of millions of people, and the numbers I've seen are something like 35 million uninsured in the U.S. But in Alaska, when we were dealing with it, the number was about 100,000, out of approximately 700,000 Alaskans uninsured. And that's a huge number of people. And so we were looking at what do we do to get coverage, and many of these people can afford it. They can afford at least what I'd call catastrophic care, high deductible catastrophic care. We're not talking about if you need something for the sniffles or birth control pills, things that are pretty modest cost. But we're talking about cancer or
major surgery,
brain tumor, or things that'll could wipe you out, $100,000, $200,000 thing like that. And so we were looking at how can we design something and where people can contribute to this system, and there could be coverage. Well, I came up with something that was a novel thought. I said, everyone, just about every Alaskan gets a permanent fund dividend. And what if we would take that into the pool or make it available? I didn't ever say we had to force people, but make it available and make a large enough pool. Could something like this work? And actually at the time, if your deductible is high enough, it was possible. And so the marketplace really could design something, I think, and to take care of the uninsured. But the fact remains is a lot of people will make those types of choices, and in our society we have a moral obligation, and now even a legal obligation, to provide health care to people when they need it.
You're listening to Alaska Matters. I'm Christopher Story. My guest, former Lieutenant Governor Loren Lehman. We'll be back to decide and discuss why are conservatives labeled ignorant so often, and that's not considered hate speech, and more on the Obama health care bill right here on Alaska Matters. On the road to Anchorage the other day, in the distance, yes, I could see the bright lights of Blackwater Bend Espresso. While my gas tank was full, I was running on empty. Blackwater Bend Espresso, just what I needed. Along with my Black Mancino, which is a quad shot Americano in a 16-ounce glass without any cream, just like God intended it. I also got a ham and cheese croissant. I'm telling you, that was the highlight of my trip. Blackwater Bend Espresso, never leave Homer without it.
Panoramic Heights, spectacular ocean and mountain views, including volcanoes and incredible sunsets. Live outside of town, but less than 10 minutes from Homer. Affordable land for your dream home. These lots are priced to sell. Owners will finance, and so will First National Bank Alaska. Call Deborah at Bay Realty at 235-6183 for more information today. 235-6183, and enjoy the privacy and quiet life this wonderful subdivision offers. Or how about 52 acres next door? Celebrate nature. Set amid the rolling hills, peace and privacy can be yours on this 52-acre estate. Live well on this beautiful parcel. Moose, bear, and other wildlife are here to greet you. Come home to a secluded estate, away from the world, but within driving distance to everything. Urban farmers and ranchers will find this a true delight. Call Deborah Lysick at Bay Realty at 235-6183. When you need results, Bay Realty works.
Radio Realty is your home for all things prosperous. I'm Chris Story, inviting you to the greatest show on earth every Wednesday at 12:30 on KPEN 102 FM. If it happens to real estate, it matters to you. Learn the secrets of lasting wealth and how to become a millionaire in your own backyard. Hi, Chris, Bill here. I just love Radio Realty, although I worry about too many people becoming prosperous. They'll stop voting for me. Radio Realty's making waves, baby. Coming to a radio near you. You're listening listening to Alaska Matters. I'm Chris Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. Along with me is Loren Lehman, and we're talking about Obamacare. We're talking about health care and personal responsibility. Who's going to pay for what you get? Blackwater Bend Espresso, we want to give you something for free. Everybody wants something for nothing? Well, here you go. A bear cub had escaped from the Portage Wildlife Conservation Center last Tuesday, but worry not, Fish and Game and the owner of the facility all say that this bear cub, this female bear cub, who's been there for about a year, Shaggy is her name, and she will come home when she's hungry enough and she's had her fun. Meanwhile, be on the lookout there in the Portage area, or you yourself could be needing some major medical. Loren Lehman is our guest, former lieutenant governor of the great state of Alaska. Loren, did it surprise you that Senator Begich supported and voted for the health care bill? Did it surprise you? Do you think he was just being a good Democrat and doing what Harry Reid told him to do, or do you think Senator Begich really believes that penalizing Americans for not purchasing a product is a good idea?
Well, we've seen him toe the line on the liberal Democrat line. He essentially is lockstep with Obama all the way, and Harry Reid is, in the same thing. I remember, when he campaigned, he said, I'm not going to just join my party. I'm going to do what's right for Alaska. Well, he's not doing it. I mean, he pitches one now and then, on the pipeline vote. He'll do it when it doesn't matter. But his vote on here was the one that made the difference. And he had the chance to be a hero, and he didn't do it. And so, he essentially reneged on his promise to Alaskans, and he needs to be held responsible for it.
Supply and demand. I mean, that's the heart of capitalism. I was talking to a gal the other day that went to work on Antarctica, and I asked her about, compensation down there, and she said it was actually pretty minimal, and I don't know, it was a couple $1,000s a month or something, which I thought, for doing work at the bottom of the earth, I thought, man, that has to be like really high pay work, and in fact, it's the opposite because there's so many people that want to be there. It sort of counteracts what you would think because there's a oversupply of people, demand that they want to be there. So they can just pay them, sort of enough to get there, but nothing special. And I think that's a big part of what you've been talking about, and we've been talking about this Obamacare health bill is the counterintuitive nature of this bill relative to capitalism, and it would make me question Senator Begich's understanding of the economy or his understanding of what Alaskans think. I remember talking to his offices because you couldn't speak to him, but I said, please do not vote for this without really taking a consensus of what your constituents want. And I don't think you did, and I think you'd agree with that.
No. Just briefly, it takes what is about 18% of our gross domestic product, the largest single sector of our economy, healthcare, and it puts it under the authority of Catherine Sebelius, the secretary, and she's writing the rules. Mm-hmm. There's a problem. I have a problem with the mandate for buying that type of insurance, but what's even more important is what type of insurance. It's what the bill defines as essential health care, and it's no longer catastrophic health care. It's what she determines is essential, and it includes birth control. It includes abortifacients. Those are drugs that can destroy early human life, and it includes contraceptives and sterilization that many people find offensive, and it's against their religious beliefs. And so, that to me is even worse than the mandate. It's forcing a government system on people to violate their religious freedom. That's our First Amendment is the right for that. That's the most important thing we have, and we're giving it up. Why? Because somebody believes that we ought to. This is the way to provide more health care for more people.
And I truly believe that Senator Begich did not consider those viewpoints. I don't believe he considered what Alaskans wanted, and I think basically, from what I can tell, as you said, towed the line and wanted whatever appointments or whatever power he's going to get from the leadership. My brother, here's a great case in point. My brother works for a multinational corporation. He knows somebody within HR who is giving him early leads that essentially it's going to be cheaper for this corporation to simply pay the fine than it is to provide the health care coverage, even though the employees pay in a contribution towards it. It's just a matter of time before this breaks the back of the health care system as we know it.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to happen, and I've talked to others, that may be giving up on a health care program. In fact, this bill strands, I think, 9 million people that otherwise had health care, it just creates problem after problem. The best thing we can do is to repeal it, and we do need to address health care issues. I mean, I think there are some things we can agree on. Health care costs are too high. Mm-hmm. And you've talked about it before. Well, we have market forces, but then we have to go in and say, well, why are they too high? My wife went in for some tests, and they said, oh, but now we have to do this battery of lab work and this and this and this. Well, and when we ask the question, why? Well, that's the new policy, because doctors are afraid of being sued.
Yeah.
So now you may have to run $800 worth of tests that before it was like, well, I know what's wrong with you, or
right.
So we know health care costs are too high, and there are people who aren't covered. They're uninsured, and we need to figure out how we can get them covered. Those who can be responsible or should be, ought to be. And there are some other solutions that we can do. I know we worked on insurance pools, portability, insurance across state lines. There are things that good think tanks have come up with, the ways to improve the healthcare system that are not this radical approach that Barack Obama and his cronies rammed through Congress.
Let me ask you this real quick. Somebody did just send me a text message and would like to hear you discuss this issue, and that is the intelligence factor. You sound very intelligent to me. Conservatives in general are often lambasted with that, and you see it on social media, you see it around the internet. The new study in that whether it be a Fox News viewer or a conservative in general is less intelligent. Where do you think that stereotype comes from? Is that just ginned up from the other side as a talking point, or what do you say to that?
Yeah, well, we have in our society, the egalitarians who somehow think that their way of thinking is new, and it's they're brainiacs, and that other people who may hold to what I call absolute truth or timeless truth, or some things have been tested and tried, somehow aren't as enlightened. And many of these people are in media. Many of them are in elected office, and so they're running this through, and they're getting people to think, and they even create articles and headlines and trying to make people look like they're unintelligent if they're standing up for values that are tried, true, and good. And there are many very, very intelligent people. I mean, Newt Gingrich running for president. I'd argue he may be the most intelligent of anybody running on both sides. And Milton Friedman, free market person, very intelligent. There obviously are intelligent liberals as well. And I wish they weren't as intelligent as they are.
I'm telling you, there's something to what we're discussing here, Loren. I mean, I agree with what you said. I think you did a good job. In fact, just got a text message, one word, agreed. Thank you. 299-7653, by the way, is a text number if you'd like to give it a ring. I just take one exception to that and I agree, Newt Gingrich is an intelligent person. He lost me with his lunar colony.
Oh, yeah. Well,
man, have you ever seen anybody pander harder than that? A lunar colony? Anyway.
Well, I'm not saying by that he's a perfect man. He's made mistakes in his life. I'm just saying that there's an obviously intelligent who can speak to it, and he has ideas, and there are other people.
Well, one other person I'd like to mention is one Loren Lehman. Loren, I promised the listeners, been talking about it for a couple of days, that you're going to be here, and I promised that I'm going to ask you this question, and you can choose to answer or not answer. It's up to you. We'd like to know here on the peninsula, your birthplace, if you will, whether or not we're going to see signs that say, vote Loren Lehman anytime in the near future.
Well, that is possible. We'll just say, I'll say this. I love serving in office. I love public policy, and I love people. And, a lot of folks told me when I was a senator, the peninsula had a third senator. I love the peninsula. And I'm looking very seriously at getting back in the ring. There's, coming up the next election cycle, there's the U.S. Senate seat, there's governor, there's Congress, there's, and all of those are available, and there are people all over Alaska that I probably get called almost every day, or people stop me at a store or down at the ball game or something and say, why don't you consider getting back in? So I owe it to them, but I also owe it to myself and my family to stand up for what I believe in, and I would enjoy being back in service.
You're listening to Alaska Matters on KGTL AM 620. We are the greatest station on the dial, and this is the greatest show on earth. Loren Lehman is considering putting his name back in the hat, and I'll tell you my personal preferences. I would love to see you help Mr. Baggage get back into private sector business.
He would be a very good apartment manager, and I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just don't want him voting for me, voting for my family. He's voting the wrong way nearly all the time, and and that's just what I don't want. I don't wish ill on him. He's a fine family, and I want him taking care of his family, but he can be doing it in another role.
And that's just it, Loren. I love the way you put it, because essentially to disagree is often considered hateful. To voice your disagreement, I should say, or to voice your opinion, if it's opposite of that with which the political winds are blowing, you're labeled a hate monger. I mean, is that changed in your years of politics, or is that basically business as usual?
Well, I've always said that you can disagree, don't be disagreeable. And, if we can't talk with each other, if we can't reason, then I'd say something is wrong. And I'm always happy to debate people, talk with them, but I don't like name calling and pigeonholing and the various things that we tend to do, thinking that we elevate ourselves. Right. That's not good.
Right. All right, Loren, your prediction on Supreme Court. I know that neither one of us can say definitively what's going to happen, but what is your gut feeling or your prediction early out here? What do you think we're going to learn in June out of the Supreme Court?
I predict a 5-4 vote on the 5-4 decision on the Supreme Court. How's that? I think that Justice Kennedy is going to try to figure out. He's going to, he'll be the one, the swing, and he will try to figure out something to show that he's thoughtful, but my prediction is that this mandate is going to come down, and it's going to go back for redesign, and it'll be under a new Congress. So that's my prediction.
It may go by the wayside at that point, then.
Well, I would hope so. I don't know what may be retained. That's the other option is, they say that throwing out the mandate, makes it so it doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work with it either. So. Yeah.
Irrespective of the severability argument, it really is a defective DOA type piece of legislation. I'm telling you, my prediction is that if it does stand, I think it will change the way business is done. I think a couple of illustrations that I've given there relative to real estate, the impact it will have on developers, even if it isn't you and your home, it will impact your sellers or whoever you're buying from and or their incentive to do business. And it will also impact whether or not your company continues to offer you health care, or is it cheaper just to pay the fine, in which case then we're talking single payer. Mr. Lehman, it's been a pleasure, and I want to open this microphone back to you if and when you decide to make an announcement. Would love to hear it here on the Peninsula.
Well, thank you. Good to be with you, and I wish we're on the Peninsula today, and I'm not, but I'll be there soon, just as soon as I can get there.
All right. Thank you, Loren. Appreciate your time today.
All right. Bye-bye.
That's Loren Lehman, former Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Alaska. I want to thank him for his time today, and I really, truly hope he does consider running. I would love to see that happen. Love to see a good, solid debate, because I feel like, and maybe you agree, that the last go-around wasn't fair. It wasn't a fair footing. Whether or not you supported Ted Stevens, Uncle Ted as he's known, it wasn't a fair fight. I think that's pretty obvious. No matter which side of the aisle you happen to find yourself on, you must agree with me on that. that was not a fair fight. And I I did tell the Vegas campaign that I completely disagreed with the marketing that was being done relative to castigating Ted Stevens as a convicted criminal, and just felt that was just a horrible campaign, and was sorry to see it go the way it did. But nevertheless, that's the way the system works, and perhaps Mr. Loren Lehman will be running again in a couple of years. We'll find out. And stay tuned here to the greatest show on earth, Alaska Matters, as you heard him promise me. Well, he didn't promise, but he did mention he might come back and tell us what he thinks. Angie and Vicky, you're our winners. Want to thank Blackwater Bend Espresso for making this show possible, all of our other great sponsors, and thank you for tuning in. I want to thank Tim White for filling in for Mr. Dave Webb. Dave has got jury duty. He's doing his civic duty today, and hopefully he doesn't get sucked into a long, drawn-out court case. But I just want to thank you for being part of the program. Tiffany Story is your call screener. I am Chris Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. We'll see you next time on Alaska Matters.
The Peninsula's home for unforgettable favorites. Great listening, 620 AM, KGTL, Homer.
KGTL.